September Traffic and Parking Commission meeting. But before we get started, I think it'd be in order to recognize Mr. Mark Macy over here, the going to Public Works Director, or
interim director.
Well, whichever, you will do a good job.
Thanks, sir.
And I hope you still stay involved with traffic and parking.
I plan on it.
All right, well, good. We're proud for you. If you're not satisfied with the decision made by Traffic and Parking Commission, you may appeal the decision by filing a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of entry of the Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Do I have a motion on the approval of today's agenda?
So moved. I second.
Have a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the minutes from the September meeting.
I so move to approve.
Have a first, a second.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, approval on the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless a member of the audience or the commission requests that the item to be removed from the consent agenda. Items on public hearing. Keep comments to 3 minutes or less. Each person representing will be expected to offer new information that has not been previously made. Once the public hearing has been closed, no additional comments will be heard unless the public hearing is officially closed. Items on the consent agenda. The first one here, this will be a hand vote. Resolution number 10-15. Proposal number 2015M-023AB001. A request to abandon Crestview Drive right-of-way beginning approximately 15 feet south of Grandview Drive to its terminus. Easements and utilities will be maintained, requested by Barge, Wagner, Sumner, Cannon, Incorporated, applicant, various owners. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Have a first, second, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? None. Thank you. Resolution number 10-15. A, authorize always stop on Haynes Park and Kingsview Drive. B, authorize no parking anytime, signs on the north side of Patterson Street from Centennial Medical Center. C, authorize parking meters on both sides of Overton from Cleves to Davison Street. D, authorize a loading zone on the east side of First Avenue South in front of Music City Star. E, remove valet stand at 1411 Fifth Avenue North. F, remove valet stand at 2017 Belmont Boulevard. G, authorize permit parking on both sides of the South Street from 15th Avenue South to Villa Place from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 2 hours nor permit holders, non-permit holders. H, authorize permit parking on both sides of Tremont from 15th Avenue South to Villa Place from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 2 hours non-permit holders. I, authorize permit parking on both sides of Villa Place from Tremont to Grandview Avenue from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 2 hours non-permit holders.
I don't have any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
I do actually. On the ones that are for villa, just for clarification, is that a business or that's a business requesting those?
These are residents that are requesting it. We have a petition signed by 64 of the 68 residents. We also have a letter from the council member in support of the permit parking.
Okay. That was just the timing, the 8 to 4. That was weird, but okay.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve?
Second?
I second.
Have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Thank you. All right, new business. Removal of truck restrictions on Old Murfreesboro Road between Smith Springs Road and Faircloth Lane, requested by Kimley Horn and Associates. Is anyone here wanting to speak on that today? Come forward, Mr. White. We want to hear the ones that are in favor and the ones that are opposed to it.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Tom White. I'm an attorney with Toon Entrican & White, and I think that part of the presentation can be made clear by Chip Knopf as to our meeting with him and our request, which we had at Public Works several weeks ago. My client owns approximately 150-acre piece of property that's zoned industrial. Nobody's quite sure what happened, but relatively recently there was a limitation on truck weights put up in that area. The owner of the property and my client, who have the option, are really unaware of how it came about. But with the restrictions on the weight of the property basically can't be used for an industrial purpose. And basically, legally, we can't do that. If there's an industrial zoning, then the property has to be allowed for that. And I think there's been some dialogue between Mr. Macy and Chip Knopf and maybe Metro Legal as to this matter. But our request is that the restrictions be limited just for direct routes so my client can use the property for which it's currently zoned, period. Brendan Bowles is here from Kimley Horn who can address this. And the last thing I would request, in addition to hearing the staff support, is that Mark Macy's one of our better public servants, has been the chief engineer over there for about 20 years, but it's amazing how going from chief engineer to interim director brings on all kinds of respect. So with all deference to Mr. Macy, we would like him and the staff to at least comment about our meeting over there. And Brendan and I are both here to answer any questions.
Yes. My name is Brendan Bowles, Kimley Horn & Associates here in Nashville, representing Holiday Properties. And like Mr. White said, we're simply trying to get access to our property that's already industrially zoned. We have 2 points of access, one off Old Murfreesboro Road and one off of Reynolds Road. Those are the two bounding streets that could provide access to this property. I think we would agree to not provide access to Reynolds Road and take truck traffic through the neighborhoods, but we need to be able to get access off of Old Murfreesboro Road, and that's what this request is for.
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
I'll help. Very well said, and I'll help put this into terms we understand on our side. Let's see a map, Corby, and this will all come together for you. See the property where the red text box is? That is the property we're talking about that could be developed. And Old Murfreesboro Road has a truck restriction on it today. And so the question has been over the past few months, well, how can I develop a business that has trucks within an area that has truck restrictions? And so then all of us got together and talked, and as it turns out, Metro Legal helped me, as it turns out, if this is a direct route to and from your business, the truck restriction does not apply to you. In other words, you can conduct business if you get in and get out in the shortest route possible, which would be Smith Springs. And so with the industrial zoning and I guess the idea that we don't want to prevent businesses from being able to do business, we say the truck restriction can stay as long as these guys follow the direct route clause in the code. Is that correct, Teresa?
I think we have maybe a little bit of a factual question about whether the truck restriction is even on there, because y'all didn't have it on the schedule.
Well, that's the next thing we've got to figure out. There are signs out there today, and like a lot of signs in our county, they've been out longer than our record keeping has been around. So how the signs actually got in place, we don't know yet. But they're there, and the residents know they're there, and we can't just go take them up even though they're not on record. So that's part two of what we have to figure out today. But as far as this agenda goes, we got to figure out the agreement with Mr. White and his client.
Sure, so there is an exception in 1236-110. So if you assume, for the sake of argument, that there is a proper truck weight restriction on Old Murfreesboro Road, it says, when signs are erected giving notice thereof, no person shall operate any vehicle with a gross weight in excess of the amount specified at any time upon any of the streets or parts of streets described on Schedule 10, attached to and made a part of this regulation, except that such vehicles may be operated thereon for the purpose of delivering or picking up materials or merchandise, and then only by entering such street at the intersection nearest the destination of the vehicle and proceeding thereon no farther than the nearest intersection thereafter. So if they were using the Old Murfreesboro Road just for going to and from their pickups and deliveries, then, as long as they left it where they could at the nearest intersection and entered it at the nearest intersection, it seems like the exception covers it.
For my clarification, is that any size vehicle?
It doesn't. The code section, which I looked it up, and it goes back to 1972, and it's been amended a little bit since, but not in material respect for this purpose. And that exception seems very broad. It just says such vehicles may be operated thereon for the purpose of delivering or picking up materials.
So that leaves us, in this case, it's a 16,000-pound limit. But with the exception or the exclusion, anything would go. As long as they're coming to and from directly, there would be no restrictions. Because we don't have weight limits. Like there's not a bridge out there that we have to put a 10-ton limit on. So they would be able to conduct business with or without the signs being in place, if they follow the direct route rule, if you will. So as far as removal of the sign, the restriction as it's written on today's agenda, with that said, Mr. White, are we all okay with leaving the restriction in place?
I think, Chip, leaving the signs in place may be, in some respects, a good thing, because people will understand that it's just the trucks coming and exiting our site that are exempted from it. And it's not to be a pass for everybody else that's in that area. It's strictly for ingress and egress. So I talked to Mark Macy about this morning, and leaving the signs up, there's ways to get the signs tailored that might be a little more clear that it doesn't include our site. But actually, that's not the important thing. The important thing is just making sure that the minutes of traffic and parking clarify what we're talking about. And you and I looked at a map slightly earlier that we would send down to clarify these the direct access routes to our property, which are Old Murfreesboro Road, Smith Springs Road right there. We can clarify that. And as long as it's correctly put in the minutes of the Traffic and Parking Commission, the fact that the signs are there is not the major issue for us. It would be for the property owner, since we've got about 150 acres it's very valuable property, and investors and other people are very much hesitant about making an investment if they feel that you can't use it for an industrial purpose. So the minutes here would clarify it. In a perfect world, yes, it'd be nice if the signs weren't there, but at least it might be a prohibition or reminder to other people that it only specifically addresses our site. So if we could have the minutes reflect the most direct route, and we can send that to you through Brendan Bowles at Kimley Horn after the meeting, so it can even be attached to the minutes if need be. But that's what we're looking for. It's Smith Springs Road and Old Murfreesboro Road directly for ingress and egress to our site, and our site only, nothing beyond that. And again, we're just as enigmatic as everybody else as to how it came about, since as an industrial zone piece of property, it's downzoned if you can't use it for that purpose, that's all.
So for clarification, anything to the, let's call that west or northwest, anything to the northwest of the red line there, no truck should be in that area still, because when you turn out of your property, you'll turn left and go to the intersection and then back out onto Murfreesboro Road. Is that right?
That's not the current request as we requested it to the commission.
You're correct. Today's request is removal of the signs, but
Right. We would like to request to be able to access from either side of the property, and both would be direct routes depending on what time of day you're using the road.
The removal of the signs is no longer that critical to us.
That's true.
It's the minutes clarification that are important to us. And again, there may be some benefit to the signs for others that might use it for a purpose not related to our property. But the direct route access is clarified by Brendan, could be either way coming up and down that road.
Good point.
Of which we've all talked about. That's not the issue. But the signage removal, it's not that critical. It's just a clarification that direct route to our property from either side there would be allowed and not prohibited. That would allow our clients on this 150-acre property to get investors in and move forward. That's the important thing.
So I'm trying to look out for the Council Lady Johnson, who wants the signs to stay. And on behalf of the people that live out there, they want the signs to stay. So if we're all in agreement that it's a wash, the signs can stay if we have this agreement about direct routes, the Council Lady would be happy. We're happy. People out there might not be happy. We might hear from them soon, but about what all this means. But as far as today's agenda, I'm going to either say we just take it off the agenda or we vote to deny the request to remove them.
But I do want to make sure, Chip, that, again, because the signs are not the driving factor to us, that we have the minutes reflect that direct access is allowed, so that I don't want to see no action taken today, because that kind of leaves us where we are right now. I just want to clarify that there is a recognition of direct route access on Old Murfreesboro Road, and that the request to remove the signs is not approved for others. That's all.
And Teresa, that's why we're really looking at you on this one. If that, I don't want to put you on the spot too badly, but if that's the case, then I could see us all being on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, the council has adopted this code section, 1236-110. So, the commission can't deviate from what council has specified in the code regardless. So, that's always going to be, the decisions of this commission are always going to be subject to the application of what the code sets out anyway. So whether you leave the signs in place or deny the request and leave the signs in place, or grant the request and remove them, 1236-110 says what it says.
So for the purposes of reflecting it in the minutes, if we were to make if I were to make a motion to deny the removal, could it then be reflected that that is contingent on them using the direct routes, and that will be reflected?
I always encourage the commission members to articulate the reasoning behind their motions,
Sure.
because that's always useful for, any potential appeal. Hopefully there wouldn't be one, but if there were, that's helpful for you to articulate the reasoning. And so if part of the reasoning is that you're kind of relying on the fact that this code section exists and creates this exception, then I think that would be perfectly fine.
I'm not sure I'm clear on if the code takes precedence, if we put it in the resolution, how much bearing would that have over the code?
I don't think it really has any,
That's
because
right. So what difference does it make?
if there's nothing wrong with it, you can just.
The code is the code, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Just wants it reflected in the minutes.
but if it's not going to take precedence over the code,
I don't see any reason why not to put it in the, because, either way it goes, we're going to have to make a motion and do something on this item, right? We're either going to have to approve it or deny it or defer it.
but the other piece we're not dealing with today, right? Because the public is going off what's on our agenda today, and the rentals is not on our agenda.
None of the other stuff is on our agenda today. We just got to decide whether we want to remove the truck
The signs
restriction on
we
Old
can
Murfreesboro
discuss
Road.
today, correct.
But like Mr. White says,
Yeah.
for the bigger picture, we want it documented on what we're really agreeing to, because, the agreement to leave the signs, it's bigger for these guys. They want to know if they can buy this property and use it the way they want to.
And Mr. Chairman, the reason for the request for the clarification, we understand and are totally on the same page with Metro Legal as to the fact that our property is exempt from it anyway. The problem is for investors, you've got a 150-acre tract out there. They see these signs up there. and they're reluctant to go ahead and put the monies in there without some clarification. That's why we're respectfully asking that there's no issue, but that the Metro section takes care of our client's request. And if we could request that the motion be that the sign removal not be done, but that the minutes would reflect that direct access to our site on Old Murfreesboro Road is recognized. That's all we're asking for.
I'm going to make a suggestion. It might be bad. You might not like it, but I'd like to see the recommendation to deny, and with the stipulation that Metro Public Works with Metro Legal sees this direct route plan and approves it, and at least that's documented somewhere too. It's not just, well, we want to come in this way and leave, because you say you got a drawing anyway. You say you got a map.
That'd be
so let us
perfectly
approve
acceptable.
it together with our legal and team, and then it'll be at least in the books.
I mean, I don't know that it takes that much analysis. I think it's just really whether the direct route meets the language of the code provision that says such vehicles may be operated thereon for the purpose of delivering and picking up materials or merchandise, and then only by entering such street at the intersection nearest the destination of the vehicle, and then proceeding thereon no farther than the nearest intersection thereafter.
And I think that's where we're having a question. I think I heard that from the north, they're wanting to come in on the long leg of Old Murfreesboro, and from the south, they're wanting to come through Smith Springs. And so that's what we might need to take a deeper look at. Or unless you got the answer today.
Yeah, and unfortunately, looking at the legislative history on this didn't really shed any light, so.
We're happy to turn it in subject to, say, Public Works looking at the direct route access and approving it. I think Teresa and I have both told you what the law is. I don't know if there's much else we can do there, but if the clarification is the route is direct access route is approved by Public Works, we'll turn it in this afternoon.
Well, I'm just concerned that for the citizens that aren't here today and the council lady, that if you're thinking you can come in from the north, it's, I don't know, I got to question that as being the direct route. I think you come through Smith Springs Road, that's your direct route, even from the north. And that's, we might not can settle this right here, right now. That's why I kind of want to see it on, in a setting where we can look at it and talk about it a little more. Because direct to me and direct to these commissioners might be, you got to come through the intersection closest to your location.
We're perfectly acceptable with turning in a map subject to your approval and legal's approval, period. I don't think there's much issue about where the trucks will come and go, but we'll turn that in if we could get it approved today on the basis, as we've discussed, about the signs not being removed, with the caveat that direct route access is allowed and exempted from it in a form to be approved by Public Works and Metro Legal is fine.
Chip, just a clarification. How is this, so this, you discussed this with the council person in the district, and then was there any notification to the property owners in the area?
There have not been individual letters that went to the neighbors themselves, just to the council lady. And admittedly, it was before we got all these people together to see what a truck restriction really means. So she thinks probably that a truck restriction means no trucks in my area. So we got to figure that out before we make this a permanent, like there's this gray area of, are the signs even legal right now? Because they're not on the books. So before we go there, I got to get with her and Metro Legal to see, make sure she understands what these guys are saying, what that, they're interpreting what that code means. And to them, it means that you could still conduct business within a truck restricted area. That, I don't know if I answered you, but she knows about it, but she might not know about the agreement we have today.
Okay.
Okay. Chip, I've got a couple of questions. I noticed there's a lot of unimproved property in that area. If we leave the signs up and permit them to bring those trucks in and out, what happens if somebody down the road comes in and they want to do the same thing and we got signs up? And number two, if we vote on this, aren't we overriding what the council has recommended with no
Both
truck?
of those questions are probably out of my league. It's all about interpretation at this point, and that's where the attorneys come in. If I'm understanding it correctly, if it's zoned industrial usage of the roadways is permitted. And that's putting it in a very open way, but I think you're right. If those other lands developed and they want to bring trucks in and out, that same rule would apply to them. And then as far as overriding the code, again, I have to look at Metro Legal to decide that.
I think it's kind of unnecessary. It's almost kind of a belt and suspenders approach, because I think the exception already exists in the code, and so it's kind of, for the purposes of a business that really is going to be going in and out for the purposes of pickups and deliveries, they're exempt anyway. So you all don't really have to take any action at all. Except that there is a motion to remove the signs before you, and so you do have to dispose of that in one way or another. Or not a motion, but a request. So regardless of whether you take that action to deny the request, they can't be, it appears to me, as long as it's for pickup and deliveries and they follow that route from intersection to intersection, the council has already decided that they're allowed to do this.
I make a motion to deny the removal of the truck restriction on Old Murfreesboro Road.
With the stipulation of the direct route being...
Yeah, so I actually wrote it down, so I get it right. So I make a motion to deny the removal of the truck restriction on Murfreesboro Road, with the understanding that the affected property and business owners will use the quickest, most direct route in and out of their property per the Metro Code, which is 1236. That's why I wrote it down.
I second.
All right. Yeah, we have a first and a second, but before we do this, is there anyone here in opposition to it that would like to speak? Doesn't seem to be any. Okay, we have a first on Stephen's recommendation and a second by Mary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mark?
Just as a matter of information, the Metro Council will be voting on the representative of the council to come to this meeting, but it'll be at their next meeting, October 20th. So at your next Traffic and Parking Commission meeting, your Metro Council rep should be here.
Okay, good. Thank you. And good luck to you, Mark.
Oh, I had a real quick announcement. This month is Walk Month, and I understand they're doing a Walk to School Day on Wednesday, so I just wanted to make mention of that. See, nodding heads, everybody's familiar with that, but wanted to just mention that. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Chairman.
Anyone else? Stephen?
There's other audience members. Did we miss something, or?
We bring a lot of people to support us.
Okay.
Okay. Captain?
I move that we adjourn the meeting. I second.
Have a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Appreciate everyone being here.